Hi, last weekend I participated in Ludum Dare for the first time, which is a biannual game jam where participants create a game over a weekend. Ludum Dare comes in two versions, the compo version, as well as a jam version which allows for 24 more hours and is a little bit less strict. I decided to go for the jam version, but with the option to opt for the compo if I felt proud of the game I had created at that point. I did not. This was the 48th installment of Ludum Dare, and it kicked off with a theme reveal in the middle of the night at 0300 on the 24th of April in my time zone. The compo ran for 48 hours from there, and the jam for an additional 24 hours. So on the 23rd of April I prepped, went to bed early and set my alarm to 3 in the middle of the night. I woke up at 8 in the morning, checked the theme, which was deeper and deeper, and started to design a game around this. The premise of the game came to me rather quickly. For a while now, I've been wanting to conceptualize a game around time travel. So my idea was to create a game where the player controls a set of characters, each in different time slices, but in the same room. And the player has to alter the environment in the past in such a way that the character in the present can reach a goal. i.e., the player travels deeper and deeper back in time to resolve things in the present. In an effort to adhere to the theme more, I decided that the game would take place in a crypt of sorts, and that the visuals would be dark, pitch black dark. The first thing I wanted to do was to get the character movement in place, so I created a couple of objects for prototyping, as well as a placeholder character object. I used these objects to quickly create the first level of the game, which will introduce the movement mechanics to the player and would therefore not contain any time traveling. The custom play controller script receives a camera relative movement direction from the input handler, and then rotates and moves the character object with the help of the Unity character controller component. With tweaked properties, the result was more than decent. Next, I implemented the time slice mechanics. I managed to do this rather quickly by having each time slice or dimension be its own child of the level object. And then it was just a matter of activating the current time slice game object and disabling the rest. With the time slice logic in place, I needed some objects that utilized this mechanic. So firstly, I created the time slice object, which basically just mimics the position of its linked object, and which is pushable in some time slices and static in succeeding ones. The second one I chose to implement from my list of candidates was the time slice expander, which is a level-wide object that changes its size based on its state in a previous time slice. I had a few other ideas, for instance an object that changes its dimension between time slices to either block or work as a bridge, but chose to put them on hold and only implement and design them if I had some extra time at the end of the jam. I did not. With these mechanics in place, I quickly designed some additional introductory levels, so I could continue with the safety of knowing I had somewhat of a game done. I then moved on to art and modeling, more specifically the character design, which I wanted to be an enigma-like androgynous humanoid. The result was mediocre up close, but looked good from the in-game angle it would be seen from. I quickly animated two different states for it, running and a very subtle idling. When I then added it to the game scene, I noticed that the design looked more like a placeholder than my actual placeholder. But this was what I envisioned, so I stuck with it. But I would have to rely on the environment to create some sort of atmosphere. I started with the ground, focusing on the continuity of the decay between time slices. I followed that up with various building blocks, stairs, and then the gates that would work as entry and exit points of each level. As for the time slice object, I chose to have a model that stands out for when it's pushable and make it decayed and grey when it's static in following time slices. Lastly, sand would be the visual representation of the time slice expander object. I paired this with a stream of sand achieved by a UV offsetting and alpha clip shader to indicate what and where the player should block or unblock to alter the sand amount in succeeding time slices. Around this time, 48 hours had passed, and the compo submissions were now closed. And since my game was far from finished, still using the prototype blocks for the levels, I chose to continue and opt for a jam submission instead. So I leaned back and redesigned the levels using all my newly created assets. Even though there were barely any content, levels that is, in the game, I knew that I would only be able to spend a portion of the 24 hours remaining working on this game. So I started the polishing phase, using different lighting and dust particle systems to further emphasize the concept of time in my levels. To juice up the time slice changing, I used a post-processing animation that quickly changes the lens distortion intensity back and forth. And a world rotation effect would have to make do when changing and resetting levels. Lastly, I added a simplistic and descriptive user interface, and that was about it. So to summarize, I overscoped. I still find the concept interesting and would love to have more time to extend it. As of right now, there's a lot of things I did not have the time to add, for instance audio and some challenging levels, and the push mechanics are not that polished. I'm reluctant to call this a game in its current state, more of a proof of concept, or try it concept. I'm still happy with the result though, and the fact that I finished a jam with a total of around 30 active hours over the course of the jam. There's even a possibility that I might have been able to complete it during the compo, if I had been totally fucking insane. Anyway, thanks for watching, feel free to try out the game, the link is in the video description, and have a great day. One more thing, I did not manage to design a logo before the deadline, but made one after for this video, and I just want to show it. So here it is. Bye.